being shut down by a bunch of racist, anti-Semite fascists. I'm sorry, that's what it is.
Good job! Let's stay!
All right, I think my mic's being cut off. Let me wrap it up by saying this.
Let's stay!
No, I need to respect.
I want to tell you a story about freedom.
The university is asking people to leave.
No, let's not go. Let's not
show
go.
you how dangerous it is to get into the business of censorship. In 2005, a liberal in Denmark named Kare Blutgen wanted to do a child's illustrated Quran. Like a child's illustrated Bible. Sounds good? Sounds interesting? I'd read it. And he tried to get it illustrated, but no cartoonist would illustrate it. They said, we don't want to die. So this made some news in a newspaper called Politiken. And a fellow Dane said, that ain't Denmark, we're not Saudi Arabia. So he wrote to every editorial cartoonist in Denmark, offered him $80 and said, draw Mohammed in any way you want, positive, negative, whatever. And 12 cartoonists who wanted the cash did. And he published them in a newspaper called the Jyllandsposten. And that's it, nothing. If you look at the cartoons, some of them don't really say anything. One of them was sort of stylized like the Olympics. One of them made fun of Kare Blutgen and the newspaper trying to be sort of media hounds. Nothing happened. And the world went on. And then a couple of imams took those cartoons and went on tour through the Arab world showing those cartoons, trying to whip up anger. And nothing happened. In fact, one of the largest newspapers in Cairo published a cartoon. Nothing happened. No one cared. But then all of a sudden, two things changed. Syria assassinated the leader of Iran, Rafiq Hariri, and the leader of Lebanon, Rafiq Hariri. And Iran was discovered to have a nuclear program. Two despotic countries that wanted to change the channel. And so they had spontaneous protests in Tehran and Damascus against cartoons that had never been shown in Tehran and Damascus, in cities where there is no such thing as spontaneous political protests. They burned down the Danish embassy in Damascus. And suddenly, every journalist in the Western world was terrified and brought upon themselves this self-censorship, more so than any court-ordered publication ban. And I understand that, because if you're afraid, you really need to die like they died at Charlie Hebdo. But here's the point. What happens if every single newspaper in the West had run those cartoons just as proof that you can? Not because you necessarily support them. Well, I happened to be running a magazine at the time, a small magazine in Western Canada called the Western Standard, and we ran those cartoons, not on the front page, not in a lascivious way. We just wanted to show people what all the fuss was about so they can make up their own minds. And I think they're dancing the horror. Let me wrap up my story this way. We published the cartoons, and the number one reaction from people was, oh, is that it? Because the rest of the media had self-censored. And when was the last time you saw the CBC or the Toronto Star censor anything that was obscene? They love obscene things. They love things that, there was a piece of installation art called Piss Christ. It was a crucifix in the photographer's own urine. And that was in the New York Times. So imagine if the New York Times and CNN would not show a cartoon. That's got to be a pretty obscene cartoon. That's got to be a pretty diabolical, outrageous cartoon. And when people actually saw the cartoons with their own eyes, they said, oh my God, that's it? So the very fact that the media did not show it imbued them with more mystique and more power. So we showed it, and we started getting letters to the editor from Muslim Canadians saying, thank you. I remember this one letter from Rawa Khalid, who said, I did not leave an Islamic hellhole, that's her words, and cross the ocean to have Sharia law follow me to Canada. That's what she said. So we were pleased, And the rest of the media said, oh, that looked easy. Maybe we should have done that. Although no other media in the country published it. But then we got hit with 2 human rights complaints. And I remember the wording of the law off by heart, you can imagine, because I was dragged through a 900-day process. Under Section 2, actually, or 3 of the Alberta Human Rights Act, it was against the law to publish anything, quote, likely to expose a person to hatred or contempt. Well, what does that mean, likely to, in the future? So it's a future crime? I mean, what does that mean? So you're prosecuting me for publishing something that maybe one day will do what? Will cause hard feelings. That's what hatred or contempt are. So it's not even a thought crime like in Orwell, it's a feelings crime. Can you imagine? Now the thing is, we don't want feelings of hatred or contempt a lot, but they're natural human feelings. If you never feel hatred or contempt, you're not normal in your personality. We have love and hate and respect and contempt, and we just got to learn to control those things. If you don't have a hateful reaction to certain things, you're not human, I put it to you. We just have to learn how to deal with that. If all we had to do in life was pass the Love Each Other Act, well, we would have done so long ago. And so I was prosecuted, really the first blasphemy case in over 100 years in Canada, for publishing something likely to expose a person to hatred or contempt. What does that even mean? And no proof is necessary because it's just a likely to. It's like that movie Minority Report with Tom Cruise, where they arrest you, and I didn't do anything yet. Yeah, but you will. After 900 days, the case was dropped, but not before enormous costs were inflicted upon me. And again, that's like that Quebec police chief saying, this is just pour encourager les autres, to set an example for the others. We'll put you through a 900-day prosecution, Ezra. And so every other journalist in Canada can say, oh, 900 days, $100,000 in legal fees. All right, message received. Maybe I won't show those cartoons. Maybe I'll skip the fact that the local mosque has a sermon that's anti-Semitic or anti-women or anti-this or that. Maybe I won't report it because I don't need 900 days in the Human Rights Court and $100,000 in legal fees. It's a precedent. Let me close by telling you the 3 reasons why we should hear things, why we should allow things to be said that we find hateful. I find things hateful. I find those so-called anti-fascists hateful. They're full of hate. They want to get me. They want to physically hurt me. We saw what they did in Berkeley the other day. They burned the place down.
Flagpoles.
But let me give you 3 reasons why I think those fascist assholes should have their free speech, even though I hate them. Or they hate me, more accurately. Let me tell you why I think even those black bloc Soros fascists should be allowed to speak. And I'll give you 3 reasons. And I didn't come up with these 3 reasons. I actually heard them from Gilles Marchildon, who used to be the executive director of EGAL, the gay rights group. And here's why he said he didn't want to ban anti-gay speech. He said, number 1, I want to know who the haters are.
Put them in the open.
So these haters out there, I want to know who they are. Now, they don't want me to know. That's why they got the masks on, right? But if there's a hater, whether they hate blacks or hate Jews or hate this or hate that, I want to know who they are. Don't you?
Yes.
The second reason is, well, that's a teachable moment, as Barack Obama would say. Okay, there's a moment of hate. Let's teach the next generation why what they're doing is wrong. And if you don't allow the hate to come there and allow that crisis, you can't solve and resolve that issue. Let's say you hear a bigoted comment. Okay, now you could explain to everyone why that's wrong. And if you didn't hear it, you missed that opportunity because you're pushing it down, you're pushing it underground. I put it to you that free speech is an outlet. If you try and tamp that down, it's going to come out some other way, maybe even in violence. If you don't let people mouth off safety valve, it might come out in violence. I think there's a correlation between countries with censorship and countries with political violence. But the third reason that Gilles Marchildon had for allowing hate speech is we don't want to outsource our citizenship duties to the government. Here's what I mean by that. Let's say someone makes a bigoted comment at work. Well, what's the normal thing to do? You go up to the guy and you say, That's not how we talk around here. Let me tell you how we are. That's wrong. That you deal with it personally. You put a little bit of your personal skin in the game. You know, you take ownership of your life and around you, and you don't make a federal case out of it, but you solve it in a real way with a little bit of yourself, right? The alternative that they're proposing in these human rights acts and these anti-Islamophobia censorship laws and these fascists would do is that you call 911 to some hate finder general who's going to come in and you're going to have a 900-day hearing about what was a stupid racist joke. So instead of dealing with it right there, you absolve yourself of any citizenship duties, any civic duties, and you give it to some cop or some bureaucrat or some lawyer or some busybody who'll get around to it in a year or two, and some whole industry will build. You know what? I would rather deal with little acts of bigotry in my life, take personal ownership of my life and my community and my organizations, my workplace, than just say, oh no, I just called the hate police and they'll be here and they'll make arrests and in 3 years this thing will move through court. Yeah.
I think it makes, like, when you speak to your third point, a very important part of it is that it makes your chief interaction with the state, right? That the client is not between consenting actors, it's between you and the state, and it grows the power of that, right?
That's a great point. You know, it's about personal responsibility, it's about personal citizenship, and it's about solving this amongst us rather than handing it over to some partisan and distant and biased bureaucrat who would never care as much as you would.
And a forceful one.
Yeah. Aaron?
So guys, I'll give you a quick update. We've got protesters surrounding us as you're speaking.
Sure.
That's
I think I'm sort of done. All right, folks. Well, listen, I've enjoyed our brief talk. I think it was important that we spoke in the face of the fire alarm, don't you?
Yeah.
I think it was important that we spoke out here, don't you?
Yeah.
I think it was important that we called those so-called anti-fascists by their proper name, which is Jew silencing fascists. Yeah. And I think it was important that we talked a little bit about free speech. Yeah. I want to thank my friend Aaron Gunn, and I want to congratulate him for his wisdom for putting me last. I do want to say a word about security and the police. I think the police did the right thing with the fire alarm, because although it was a childish move and so obviously a false alarm, I think the police did have the duty to clear the building. I think they did, and I think they were supportive of us, and I think they blocked the fascists, which they didn't do at Berkeley. So I don't have criticism for the Toronto police who were here. In fact, I'm grateful to them for what they did. And it just shows the inability of our fascist foes to debate. Let me close how I opened by saying, if you're here today, especially standing in the cold listening to me rant, then you're my kind of people. You're a bit of a rebel yourself, I might put it to you. And if you're a young person who wants to do more than just, attend an event, if you want to do more than just listen, if you want to affirmatively and proactively do something, well then maybe you have a place with the rebel, because I believe in free speech and I think that we are the pointy edge of the spear of free speech. I think they're going to come for us with these new censorship rules that they're bringing in. I think it's only a matter of time. If you want to be part of our battle, send me an email to ezra@therebel.media. And if you want to do a little demo video on your cell phone and upload it to Dropbox or YouTube to send it to me, I'd like to see it.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
What are they doing right now? Looking Hashtag hug a Nazi, yeah. Two Jewish guys hug each other. What could go wrong?
All right. So I hope that we can come away from here knowing the true nature of the so-called anti-fascists, maybe a few thoughts about the importance of free speech and why we should not outsource our fighting of hate, why we should do it as citizens. And finally, if some of you want to join me as Jay Fiza joined me, and if others from students in support of free speech want to join me, maybe we can even grow from here and be stronger. They can't pull a fire alarm on YouTube. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Hey guys,
Jumping into the CPC race to take the rebel to 24 suspects.
No, but thank you for the flag.
Hey guys, if you need to get your stuff from the inside the building, stay here.